Locals spot bags of money on sidewalks for years before police uncover the real story. When a company, person, or website advertises the possibility of free money, just fill out this survey, this offer should always be treated with suspicion, for there's almost always a catch. Money doesn't grow on trees, the old adage goes, and no, it certainly does not. Imagine then the surprise and skepticism that locals in one English village felt when bags of money just began appearing on their sidewalks at random, with no explanation or intended recipient. Police investigated the odd phenomenon, and the story is way stranger than anyone even knew. Former mining town, Blackhall Colliery was a sleepy English village of about 5,000 people, situated alongside the rocky North Sea coast. That peace was disturbed, however, when some very unusual events began to rattle the village. It all began in 2014 when bundles of cash began appearing out of nowhere. Residents came across these strange bounties on their way home from work or while walking to school. It almost seemed like a gift from God. The money came bundled in stacks of 20-pound notes, and while the denominations may have been small, these finds usually amounted to at least 2,000 pounds, or about $2,600 American. For many, this would be more than enough to pay monthly rent. At first, the residents of Blackhall thought that this was some kind of fluke. Surely, they thought, these strange packages would stop appearing soon. However, they just kept on coming, usually by the main drag. By 2020, an astounding 12 separate bundles have been found, funds that in total added up to at least 26,000 pounds. That's a whopping $33,000. The residents' mounting confusion only grew. However, rather than keeping the money, as they surely could have gotten away with it, villagers were incredibly honest. Each time they discovered one of the strange finds, they brought it directly to local police. Still, despite their noble actions, time and again law enforcement found that nobody ever came to claim the money, and the people who had brought it in ended up being rewarded for their honesty by being allowed to keep it. As confused as the villagers were about where these mysterious cash drops were coming from, the Durham Constabulary, the local police force, was even more puzzled. Finally, they reached out to the public for answers. The investigators struggled to find an answer to the inexplicable occurrences, asking residents and local organizers if they had any intel, even going as far as to test the money for fingerprints. Their inquiries remained fruitless. These bundles are always left in plain sight, such as on pavements and discovered by random members of the public who have handed them in. Detective John Forster reported, "We would welcome any information that would help us get to the bottom of these random incidents." Finally, after 6 years of confusion, police got their big break. Two individuals who wished to remain anonymous came forward to take responsibility for these strange piles of cash. Respecting their wishes, cops only referred to the pair as the Good Samaritans. However, the benefactors did shed some light on the motives behind their highly unusual activities. The two Good Samaritans confessed that they shared an emotional connection to the town of Blackhall. One of them in particular described an interesting encounter that had spurred her to desire to give back to the village. Apparently, she'd been helped at one point in the past by a certain resident of Blackhall Colliery, and as such, wanted to repay the kindness she received. The two philanthropists had something else in common as well. They both had recently come by a windfall of money, and as such decided to use their good fortunes to invest back in the residents of this whimsical English village, rather than keeping all the wealth for themselves. The Good Samaritans also confessed to police that they had strategically placed the bundles in places where the elderly or underprivileged would be most likely to find them. This wasn't all they did, though. Rather than dropping the money and running off, the pair waited and watched until they made sure someone had a chance to pick it up and take the cash. Apparently, they'd been there behind the scenes the entire time. Although the mystery is, at least partially, solved now, law enforcement officers are still asking that residents bring any piles of money they find to the police station. There is a catch, though. Even though police must follow guidelines by requesting that locals bring the money in, clearly the chances of money finders getting the funds back are quite high, and now lucky recipients can breathe a little easier spending the generous gifts. At first, Forster remarked, even the people who found the money weren't comfortable with spending it. I think it was just a case of reassuring them that it was deliberately meant for them to find. That instinct stretched outside of Blackhall Colliery.